Chapter 53 of The Secret Zoo. Goodbye. The scout stood beside the curtain to Sector 15, ready to go home, a place Megan had not been for 3 long weeks. Mr. Darby, Tank, and the scout's animal friends stood beside them. Tank said, "About Megan." The scouts waited for more. When nothing came, Noah said, "Yeah?" "I met with a few of the Descenders. We came up with a plan about..." "The who?" Ella asked. Tank shook off the question. "Never mind who they are for now. Just know that I talked to them, and we have an idea on how to hide the reason Megan disappeared. We thought of something to tell your parents, your world, about Megan, about what happened to her. It would keep the secrets of the zoo safe." Noah was genuinely curious. Let's hear it. Tank started talking, and for the next 10 minutes, the scouts listened and nodded and asked questions. After hearing the plan, they agreed to try it. Noah thought it was a great idea. He just didn't know if they could pull it off. Finally, Noah turned to Mr. Darby and asked, "What about the Sasquatches? How many got out?" "It's difficult to say. We posted koalas in the trees. They spotted around 50. "Well, what will they do?" Megan asked. "The Sasquatches, I mean." "Perhaps nothing," Mr. Darby said, "but I fear that I'm thinking wishfully." "I feel terrible," Richie said. "It's like..." "Please don't. You rescued your friend. This was your duty. What's more, in rescuing Megan, I believe you rescued us." "Rescued you?" Ella said. "How?" "The Megan situation is over, and the division it created in the secret society will no longer exist. We'll be united again. We need unity to focus on our task, which is protecting the secret zoo, its animals, and its magic." "I wish we could help," Noah said. Mr. Darby raised one eyebrow. "Well, you can. We need crossers, people that pass between the outside and the inside. We need good people, adventurous people. Scouts would do nicely." "Action scouts," Tank said, and winked. "Mr. Darby," Ella said, we're only kids." "Only kids?" Mr. Darby barked. He laughed and patted her head. "Only kids. Look at all you've done. The Action Scouts are much more than kids, I assure you." Noah said, "I'm not sure if..." Mr. Darby raised his palm. "Think about it. For now, go back to your homes and families." "Before we leave, I'd like to say goodbye to my friends." Noah ran to Blizzard, who waited behind Mr. Darby with solemn eyes and his ears pressed flat against his head. Noah wrapped his arms around him. "Goodbye, Blizz," he said. "I'll miss you." Ella and Richie ran to either side of Blizzard and squeezed the giant polar bear, burying their cheeks in his furry sides. Blizzard rolled his head back and roared. His voice echoed off the city walls, and the birds in the tree branches erupted into mournful chirping and cawing. The scouts said goodbye to Little Bighorn and Marlowe and Dodie and Tank. Richie bent down to the group of prairie dogs that lay at his feet, and P-Dog sprang up. Richie scratched him behind the ears and said, "Listen, if you guys find the gorilla that stole my shoes, do me a favor and drop them in the mail." Petting Podgy's feathered head, Megan said, "Thanks for everything, little dude. Without you, I'd still be trapped in that cave." Noah looked at Podgy. "I can hardly believe we did it," he said, as he leaned forward to hug the big penguin. Then Podgy did a remarkable thing. He wrapped his flippers around Noah and hugged him back. "Whoa, boy, easy with those flippers," Noah said. "Those are your ticket to the sky." Podgy flapped his flippers, and Noah noticed that, for the first time, the penguin didn't look sad or bored. Light gleamed in his eyes. "It wasn't his flippers that got him flying," Mr. Darby said. "It was the strength of his spirit. That's a power you showed him." Noah smiled and gazed affectionately at Podgy, who was still flapping his flippers. "Goodbye, Podge. I'll see you around, huh? At Penguin Palace in the Clarksville City Zoo, or..." Noah glanced at the animals and the trees and the secret of the city species, "or elsewhere." As the scouts walked toward the doorway, that led them homeward, Mr. Darby called out, "You'll think about it then. My proposition? A society as great as ours could use your help." The children's eyes met briefly, and Noah replied, "Keep in touch, Mr. Darby. You know how." "Indeed I do," the old man said with a grin. "Indeed I do." The Action Scouts, complete again with Megan back, waved goodbye to Mr. Darby, Tank, Blizzard, Podgy, Little Bighorn, and the other animals who had gathered to see them off. Pandas, cheetahs, kangaroos, tigers, turtles, and countless others. They lined the streets, the buildings, and the trees. Hot tears formed in Noah's eyes. The only thing that stopped them from falling was the awareness that he was leaving the magic and beauty of the secret zoo to take his sister to her rightful place in their family. The scouts pushed through the velvet curtain and entered Sector 15. The curtain fell closed, leaving behind the city of species with the animals and people the scouts had quickly grown to love. And that's the end of the chapter. Stay tuned to finish the book.